بهت میگم بره. بارون که میاده اونجا آب جمع میشده، اونجا آب جمع میکردن بعد میفرستدن این پایین، تابستون آب نداشتن. یه سیستم بزرگیه. این چه بزرگه.
چه چشم کار میکنه؟ پرنده ها رو نگاه کن.
Every hole has got one pigeon. تو هر سوراخ یه پرنده است. Oh my God.
Sorry.
Look at that.
His work, so it's from 1840. It's nothing particularly special. You can see it on the right hand side, you see the Mountain of Hell. 21st century pilgrim.
Our knees really hurt.
Yeah.
It's really painful.
Yeah, you see the queue for the mouth of hell. It's rather good, that, on the right. Scare your kids with that. Right, let's go inside. Is mine just there?
Very nice. There you go.
It's too dark here. We can see. اینجا جایی بوده که آدم ها رو می آوردن از این سقف آویزون میکردن، از اونجا بعد تو اون سوراخ آویزونشون میکردن، بعد از اینجا میفرستادنشون پیش خدا. بعد از که خدا رو میدیدن از اونجا میادن پایین، میادن اینجا، بعد از اینجا میرفتن اونجا که چراغ روشنه، از اونجا همینجوری که میرفتن یه در بزرگ بود.
Dates from 1120. Now, we know that because we've got the documents, and on the 21st of July, 1120, there was a huge congregation in here because they were waiting for the feast day of Mary Magdalene, which is the 22nd of July. And unfortunately, that night... Wow. We'll move forward a little bit. Sorry about the noise. Sorry about that. So, yes, there was a huge congregation in here, and that night there was a massive fire.
داره پول میگیره. Go. میگم سرما خورم فرشته میخنده. بخند.
برنده کم نگیست.
میگم پای من میخنده. میگه نمیرسه من بی شرفم. اینجوری من داره میکشه اینجا.
I've been coming here for 15 years and I've never had to book. That's strange. Very odd. Sorry about that. Right. Okay, so where was I? Yes, the evening of the 21st of July 1120, there was a massive fire. And the original church that was here burnt down and 1,000 people didn't get out. The nave collapsed. Bang. Has anybody read The Pillars of the Earth?
Yes.
Ken Follett? I think he based it on Vézelay because the story's the same. So they started building again in 1120 and that's the building we have today. A couple of hundred years to build it. Where we're standing is called the narthex. It's the entrance to the church. But at Vézelay they've got a special name for it. They call it Galilee. Because Galilee is the entrance to the Holy Land. This is the entrance to the Holy Land of the church. This part of the church at Vézelay, strangely enough, was never consecrated. Because if you've been sent on a pilgrimage, and quite often you were ordered to go on a pilgrimage as a punishment, you quite often been excommunicated. So when you completed the pilgrimage, you could come in here, and pagans could come in here as well, if you like, to then have the service to be welcomed into the church. Now, if you look at the size of this, it's the size of a church by itself. It's because this was a welcoming place to welcome pilgrims into the church, and people would camp here overnight, if you like. There would have been a couple of other stories in here, but they've now gone. And this is where they'd stack all the people waiting to go in for the service. Okay, so it's a little bit gloomy, but I'll try and explain this. This tympanum is 13th century, very early 13th century, and it's one of the most famous carvings in France. It's a tympanum of welcome, and it's welcoming everybody in the world into the church. Now, we've got Christ in the centre, and it's the day of Pentecost, where the Holy Spirit was brought down into the room where all the disciples were, like a big wind, if you like. And if you look at his clothing, that noisy thing, if you look at his clothing, you get an idea of a wind billowing the cloth. Now, as I say, it's a little bit gloomy, but if you look at his hand, he's lost one of them because of the revolution, unfortunately. You look at his hand on the left, can you see the rays of power coming out? This is the Holy Spirit being given to the disciples. Now, talking of his hand, if you look at it, it's too big. Now, this is symbolic. If you think you welcome somebody, you put your hands out like this. So he's welcoming you into the church. Underneath his hands, you've got 6 figures either side, so obviously the disciples. If you look at the left-hand side, they're holding books, and the books are open. If you look at the right-hand side, the books they're holding are closed. So you now get the idea of Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. So it's a welcome in all of time into the church. Now what they wanted to do as well was welcome all the different people of the world. Now back in the 13th century, they didn't know what people from different continents looked like. We think they based this on the writings of a man called Herodotus, the ancient historian. Now, Herodotus made things up. He hadn't been to all the places he was talking about, so they didn't really know. Now, for instance, if you look at the lintel, the flat part above the door, look in the right-hand corner. There's people with enormous ears. This is what they thought Africans looked like. Now, there might be something to it. If you've seen some of those National Geographic magazines, you know, some of the tribes stretch their ears. Well, big ears. There you go. To the left of them is a little horse with a ladder. And that's for a pygmy to get onto his horse. In the centre, this big figure here was John the Baptist. He's lost his face, unfortunately. But to the left of him, you see the bullock for the Jewish. They're going to the temple for the sacrifice. Everything about this is symbolic. If you look at the shape of it, it's not a